From any bad
Mhm.
I like the feedback I get from this month. I don't know why.
Feedback was it?
Like
Politician.
no.
Okay. Okay, okay.
Gaba in my duty by no life. A very beautiful morning out there to all our amazing listeners, and of course, welcome to a fresh edition of In the Papers on your darling station, IPower 102.7 FM. I am Florence Ibhareman, and on this segment, we bring to you major headlines making wave across Nigeria and beyond. We have talks, we have newspapers, we have headlines, we have stories from politics to business to security to entertainment, of course, to education and global affairs. We break it down, we analyze it, and we bring it to your understanding. We hope you sit and stay with us all through the journey because, of course, it will be worth your time. Yes, we have stories from the Hope newspaper this morning. We have stories from the Punch newspaper. We have stories from the Daily Post newspapers. We have stories from the Tribune newspaper. We have stories from the Guardian newspaper. And we have stories from Daily Post newspaper. And of course, we would start with the major headlines this morning. Yes, I have this one coming to you from the Hope newspaper this morning talking about the budget. It says Senate urged NCDC to prioritize investment in agriculture. Also, away from that, and also the Punch newspaper talking National Assembly. It says National Assembly okays 1.5 trillion naira army budget amid rising insecurity. We are still on the Hope newspaper where we have inflation drops to 15.10%, food price crash, says NBC. Yes, and on the Punch newspaper this morning, we have a women rally at National Assembly to fast track reserved seat bill. We are still on the Punch newspaper this morning. We have Quara urged strict compliance to environmental laws. A quick look at Daily Post this morning where we have VAT removal won't tackle high cost of rent in Nigeria. And that was from the stakeholders. Still on Daily Post this morning where we have a ban sachet alcohol completely. Pharmacist tells federal government. And now to the Guardian newspaper this morning, taking headlines. We have no fatalities recorded in FCT's Karimu market fire, says Neymar. Still on the Guardian newspaper this morning, we have a Lagos government of VCDF urges awareness and holds blood donation drive. Yes, on the Punch newspaper this morning, we have Ogo residents plans prayer summit over hardship. And lastly, from the Punch newspaper this morning, we have two Ayedatiwa's eight resigns. We'll go on a very short break. When we come back, we'll start with the major stories for this morning. Glad to have you join us. The program is still in the papers, your daily nugget for stories making major headlines in today's newspaper. We'll start with the Hub newspaper this morning, talking Senate urged NCDC to prioritize investment in agriculture. Now the details. The Senate has urged the management of the North Central Development Commission to prioritize investment in agriculture and security in its 2026 budget. The chairman of the State Senate Committee on NCDCs, Senator Titus Zam, made a call on Monday when the management of the commission appeared before the committee to defend its 2026 budget estimate. The news agency of Nigeria reported that at the commencement of the budget defense, the committee went into a closer section to consider the commission's budget. Zam, after the closed session, said the committee had considered all the items in the estimate and found them relevant and useful for the North Central region. He noted that specific development mandate of the commission could not exist in a vacuum, as it had to address key sector of the economy. He listed the sector to include agriculture, security, health, education, public infrastructure, as well as other social services needed by the people. The lawmaker, however, said the committee was dissatisfied with the implementation of the capital component of the 2025 budget, adding that it was a national challenge as the 2025 budget had implementation issues. According to him, the committee had considered a total estimate of 140 billion naira for the 2026 financial year for the commission to be appropriated and utilized for the good of the region. If that story aligns with your interests, it is on the pages of the Hope newspaper. With this headline, Senate urges NCDC to prioritize investment in agriculture. Yeah, still on the Hope newspaper this morning, where we have inflation drops to 15.10% and food price crash. That report was from the NBS. Now the details. Nigerian's headline inflation rate declines marginally to 15.10% in January 2026, drops down from 15.5% recorded in December 2025. According to the latest Consumer Price Index report released by the National Bureau of Statistics on Monday. The decline came despite early projection by analysts that Nigeria's inflation could climb to 19% in January. The NBC report showed that the consumer price index fell to 127.4 in January from 131.2 in December, representing a 3.8% decrease. The NBS said that January bills inflation rate was 0.05% points lower than the rate recorded in December. On a year-on-year basis, the headline inflation rate was 15.10% in January, which is of 12.51% lower than 27.61% recorded in January 2025. On a month-on-month basis, inflation stood at a negative 2.88% in January compared to 0.54% in December, indicating that an average price level declined during the month. The NBC report says, and I quote, the consumer price index declined to 127.4 in January 2026, reflecting a 3.8-point decrease in the preceding month. If that story aligns with your interests, it is on the pages of the Hope newspaper this morning with this headline: Inflation drops to 15.10% and food price crash, says NBS.
I don't want you to believe it. I want to believe the first one. But don't worry. Maybe when you finish.
Yes, the program is still in the papers on your darling station iPower 102.7 FM. And of course, we're here to bring the headlines and major stories down to your doorstep. I have this one from the Punch newspaper this morning, and it says, two Ayedatiwa's aides resign. Now the details. Two media aide of the Ondo State Governor Lucky Ayedatiwa, has resigned from their appointments in the state government. The duo Pastor Taiwo Bamila, Senior Special Assistant to the Governor on Multimedia, and Olubenga Abiri, Special Assistant on New Media, tendered their letters of resignations on Sunday and Monday, respectively. Bamila, in a letter addressed to the Governor and the Secretary to the State Government on Monday, thanked the Governor for the opportunity to serve. The letter read, and I quote, Your Excellency, thank you for the opportunity to serve. I hereby respectfully tender my resignation of my appointment, the letter read. Abire, in a statement on Sunday, said, I am emotional to tell you that I have decided to quit as special assistant on new media to the governor of Ondo State. I would miss all of us, but I am still a click away. On his Facebook page on Monday, he added that the resignation had been communicated to the governor, who approved the move. Late evening on Sunday, 15th February 2026, I shared the news of my exit from the government of the Ondo State with the governor, who appointed me to serve the people of Ondo State on 23rd December 2023. As a father, he prayed for me and sanctioned my plans. I equally entered to my colleagues who wished me well, he said. If that story aligns with your interest, it is on the pages of the Punch newspaper this morning with this headline: Two Ayedatiwa's aides resign. Yes, still on the pages of the Punch newspaper this morning, where we have KB local government chair donates wheelchairs and cash to persons living with disabilities. Now the details. The chairman of the Koko Bisei local government area, Honorable Sirajo Usman Dangagwago, on Monday empowered 75 persons living with disabilities with wheelchairs and cash supports in a move aimed at boosting inclusion and economic independence. The intervention, carried out in collaboration with the Jos-based NGO Beautiful Gate Handicapped People Center, took place on Monday at the Council Secretariat, drawing beneficiaries from all the 12 wards of the local government area. Presenting its item, Guago said the initiative was designed to restore hope and give persons living with disability a stronger sense of belonging in the society. Beyond mobility support, each beneficiary also received 5,000 naira to encourage small scale trading and other income generated activities. The chairman urged beneficiaries to make judicious use of the assistance to improve their living standards, stressing that the council remains committed to support vulnerable groups. In a remark, the empowerment initiative highlighted growing collaborations between local government and non-governmental organizations to address the need of persons living with disabilities in KB State. For details of that story, see the pages of the Punch newspaper this morning with this headline: KB local government chair donates wheelchairs and cash to persons living with disabilities. Still taking stories from the Punch newspaper this morning, where we have women rally at National Assembly to fast track reserved seat bill. Now the details. Scores of women on Monday staged a peaceful rally at the main entrance of the National Assembly, urging lawmakers to fast track the passage of the Women Reserved Seat Bill ahead of the 2027 general elections. The proposed legislation is among the 44 prioritized constitutional amendments bill awaiting final voting by the National Assembly and subsequent approval by by the state houses of assembly. If enacted, the bill will amend the 1999 Constitution to create reserved seats for women in the National Assembly and the state houses of assembly. The measure is intended as a temporary intervention to address the persistently low representation of women in the Nigerian legislative chamber by creating constituencies to be contested exclusively by women. Addressing the rally, former convener of the Nigerian Civil Society Situation Room, Enne Obi, commended lawmakers for progress so far but urged them not to delay the final passage. Obi stressed that the timely passage of the bill would allow political parties and prospective female candidates adequate time to prepare for the 2027 election. For details of that story, see the pages of the Punch newspaper with this headline: Women rally at National Assembly to fast track reserved seat bill. Still on the pages of the Punch newspaper this morning, where we have a step by step to resolve power supply challenges. And that was from the NERC. Now the details. The Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission has outlined a three-step process for electricity consumers seeking a resolution of power supply, billing, and meter challenges. In the public advisory obtained by the NERC ex Andu, on Tuesday, the Commission urged customers experiencing issues such as prolonged outage, estimated billing, faulty meters, and faulty meters or voltage fluctuation to first contact the respective electricity distribution companies. According to NERC, the DISCO remains the primary point of contact for all electricity related complaints and are mandated to address technical and commercial concern within stipulated timelines. Also, the Commission advised consumers to ensure they obtain a complaint reference number to keep records of all communications to facilitate a follow up. According to them, the first step is to reach out to the Disco customer care. They are the first point of contact for technical or billing issues. Second step is, if not resolved, if you are in a state that has a transition to the state electricity regulator, escalate your complaint to them. Then thirdly, for the other states, or if you need further help, contact the NERC customer care, where we are here to make sure your complaints are heard and addressed. That was from the NERC. Of course, if that you find that story interesting, you can see it on the pages of the Punch newspaper with this headline: "Step by Step to Resolve Power Supply Challenges," says NERC. Still on the Punch newspaper this morning, where we have Quara urges strict compliance to environmental laws. Now the details. The Kwara State government has reiterated its commitment to enforcing environmental regulation and promoting sustainable practices across institutions. The development was disclosed in a statement issued on Friday by the Assistant Press Secretary of the Kwara State Environmental Protection Agency, Blessing Okpadiro, and signed by the Iowa Punch in Ilorin. According to the statement, the agency conducted an official inspection and familiarization visit to the landmark University, Omoro, as part of the agency's ongoing efforts to reinforce environmental compliance and promote sustainable practices across institutions in the state. The delegation was led by the General Manager of the KWEPA, G.D. Anno, who underscored the importance of routine inspection and stakeholders' engagement in safeguarding the environment. In his remark during the visit, Aino said the inspection is part of the statutory responsibility to ensure strict adherence to environmental regulations and standards across the state. The general manager further ensured that institutions are encourage institutions to sustain improvement in line with the state's environmental standard. The QEPA team was received by the Vice Chancellor of the University, Kolawole Ajanaku, who commended the agency for its proactive oversight. He noted that the institution had put in place structure, waste management system, sanitation protocols, and sustainability-driven initiatives to ensure compliance with environmental standards. The inspection covered key areas, key environmental facilities, waste disposal system, and general sanitation condition across the campus. For details of that story, see the pages of the Punch newspaper this morning with this headline: Kwara urges strict compliance with environmental laws. away from the Punch newspaper and now to Daily Post, where we have ban sachet alcohol completely. Pharmacist tells federal government. Now the details. Pharmacists under the platform of Association of Community Pharmacists of Nigeria, ACPN, have appealed to the federal government to ban sachet alcohol completely. The ACPN noted that this was necessary to safeguard public health. ACPN National Chairman Pharmacist Ambrose Eze made the declaration in a statement made available to Daily Post on Monday. Eze condemned the alleged decision by the federal government to reverse the ban on the production and retail distribution of alcoholic beverages in sachet and small volumes container below 200 ml. It says that the directive, originally issued by the National Agency for Food, Drug and Drug Administration and Control (NAFDAC), was firmly rooted in evidence-based harm reduction principles and child protection objectives. According to him, the prohibition of sachet alcohol should not be treated as a symbolic regulatory exercise. For details of that story, see Daily Post newspaper with this headline: Ban sachet alcohol completely, pharmacist tells federal government. Still on the pages of the Daily Post newspaper this morning, where we have Lagos State government to deploy surveillance drones to boost security. Now the details. The Lagos State government has unveiled plans to introduce surveillance drones in collaboration with key security agencies as part of efforts to enhance intelligence gathering and curb insecurity across the state. The Executive Secretary and Chief Executive Officer of the Lagos State Security Trust Fund, Mr. Ayodele Ogunson, made a disclosure on Monday during a press briefing marking his first 100 days in office. He explained that the initiative is aimed at strengthening area monitoring and improving rapid response to security threats. Ogunson revealed that the trust fund is preparing to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Nigerian Air Force and the Nigerian Police Air Wing to facilitate coordinated air-based security operations across Lagos. According to him, the partnership will involve the deployment of unmanned areas, vehicle UAVs, commonly referred to as drone, to significantly boost surveillance coverage, intelligence collection, and operational coordination among security agencies. He noted that the Nigerian commercial hub, Lagos, requires continuous investment in modern security infrastructures to protect lives, properties, and economic activities. Reviewing his stewardship so far, Ogunson said the trust fund had expanded its financial capacity through targeted fundraising strategies and deeper engagement with stakeholders. It disclosed that the 18 new operational and patrol vehicles had been deployed to strengthen security presence and represent time across the state, adding that additional vehicles would be delivered in the coming months. For details of that story, see the pages of Daily Post newspaper this morning with this headline: Lagos government to deploy surveillance drones to boost security. Still on Daily Post this morning, where we have talking e-transmission. INEC has no excuse, Saka Azimanzi says. Now the details. Consultants of the Kuka Center technical advisor on law, security, and governance, Saka Azimanzi, says there is no excuse to deny Nigerians of goodness in real-time transmission of election results. Azimanzi made a statement on Monday where he appeared as a guest in an interview on Arise television monitored by Daily Post. According to him, I said, if Moniepoint and OP have network to transact businesses across Nigeria, nothing stops the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) from borrowing their technology. His remark comes following the national debate on the real-time electronic transmission of election results. Since the amendment, Nigerian youth opposition politicians and civil society organizations (CSOs) have been protesting at the gate of the National Assembly, demanding a mandatory e-transmission. Reacting to this, he said the process of amending the law is still ongoing. It's inconclusive. The logical thing is for the legislature to have a committee to reconcile differences. There is no excuse for us to deny ourselves of goodness of real-time election transmission of results. If Moniepoint and OPay have network to transact businesses across Nigeria, nothing stops INEC from borrowing their technology, he said. For details of that story, see Daily Post newspaper with this headline. INEC have no excuse, says Saka Azimanzi. Welcome back. The program is still in the papers on your darling station, iPower 102.7 FM. And of course, we have the story coming to you from the nation's newspaper this morning. It says federal government rolls out 2,000 tractors to kickstart agric mechanization. Now, the details. The federal government has rolled out 2,000 tractors and over 9,000 per section implementation to ignite a national agricultural productivity revolution. The equipment, meant to boost food production and strengthen national food security, will be distributed in phases beginning with 600 tractors. This will be followed by an additional deployment of 750 and 650 tractors. Agriculture and Food Security Minister Abubakar Kairi, who made us known in Abuja yesterday, described the renewed hope agenda, the renewed hope national agricultural mechanization initiative as the largest ever undertaking in Africa. Kyrie said also revealed that the plan by the federal government is to build a tractor assembly plant capable of producing between 2,000 and 4,000 tractors annually. He added that the initiative is expected to address Nigerians' long-standing mechanization deficit and support over 1.2 farmers across more than 1.5 million hectares annually. In his words, he said, this is not merely an equipment rollout. It is an ignition of a national agricultural productivity resolution, ending the long era of low factor density in Nigeria. The minister said the tractors will not be distributed to individuals but deployed through certified mechanization service provider to maximize utilization and ensure wider access. According to him, the program is expected to enhance food sovereignty, create jobs, and stimulate economic growth. He added that each tractor would come with 2 years of free service support while mobile workshop and mechanization centers would be established nationwide to ensure maintenance and sustainability. For details of that story, see the nation's newspaper this morning with this headline: Federal government rolls out 2,000 tractors to kick start agri mechanization. Still on the pages of the Punch newspaper, of the nation's newspaper this morning, where we have anxiety over conference committee on Electoral Act Amendment Bill. Now the details. There was anxiety last night over the scheduled meeting by members of the conference committee on the Electoral Act Bill 2026. At the press night yesterday, the lawmakers started with the responsibility of softening the rough edges were yet to were yet to formally meet on the harmonization of differences in the 20 continental clauses in the proposed legislation already passed by Senate and the House of Representatives. A source told the nations that the scheduled section could not hold as planned due to the absence of key members of the House of Representative team. The source said, and I quote, as at 11 a.m., no members of the House of Representatives was around, but some members of the Senate Conference Committee, like Senator Audrey Uzokali and Abba Maro, were around. They went into the office of the chairman and of the panel, Senator Simeon Lalong, and later rescheduled the meeting for 3 p.m. By 3 p.m., almost the same senator that came at 11 a.m. returned, but the House of Representative members did not show up. But I think at about 4 p.m., the chairman of the House of Representative Conference Committee came and joined the senators. A highly placed committee members were quoted as saying, "How can there be a conclusion when the meeting failed to hold?" The report observed that the same senators arrived at the venue at the scheduled time and waited, but both chairman of the electoral committee, Senator Simeon Bako Landong, for the senators for the Senate and Adebayo Balogun for the House were initially absent, while no House member were present. For details of that story, see the nation's newspaper with this headline: Anxiety over Conference Committee on Electoral Act Amendment Bill. Yes, welcome back. The program is still in the papers, your daily nugget for stories making major headlines in today's newspaper. Yes, we have this one coming to you from the Punch newspaper this morning, and it says gridlock paralyzes Lagos Ibadan and Shagamu Bini highways. There's the details. Commuters were left stranded on Tuesday morning today, while others resorted to trekking as heavy gridlock disrupted traffic flow along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway and the Shagamu-Benin Highway. The gridlock was said to be due to a partial road closure at the Shagamu interchange section of the busy road as a result of the ongoing construction. A driver who identified himself simply as Mr. Ade said the gridlock, which a correspondent cited from the Shagamu interchange, had stretched to the Ogere Remo area around the animal care. He said the correspondent also observed that the traffic snare from the interchange section had almost extended to the Shagamu junction and at the Shagamu Ijebu Ode Benin Expressway. Mr. Kola Tijani, who is also on his way to Ibadan, had, turn, had to turn back at the Shagamu interchange to use another alternative route. Yes, if that story aligns with your interest, it is on the page. Gridlock paralyzes Lagos Ibadan and Shagamu Benin highways. We are still on the Punch newspaper this morning where we have this headline says talking about the Kano fire, federal government and APC governance donates 8 billion naira to victims. Now the details. The federal government on Monday approved the release of 5 billion naira to support victims of the Kano Single Market fire disaster. Also, the All Progressive Governors Forum, led by the Imo State Governor Hope Uzodinma, pledged 3 billion naira to the victim. Vice President Kasim Shettima disclosed the donation during a sympathy visit to the market on Monday. Speaking in Kano, Shettima said intervention aimed to help victims rebuild their businesses and restore economic activities in the markets. The visit followed the fire, which broke out on Saturday evening, February 15, 2026, in the Gidong glass section of the market along the Ado Bayero Road and raged into Sunday morning. It affected more than 1,000 shops and reportedly left 7 traders feared missing. Describing the incident as a national tragedy, Shatima said the inferno was not only a loss to Kano State but also to the entire federation. The vice president, who was accompanied by the governor of Jigawa, Kebbi, and Imo State, offered prayers for the victims and prayed that the Almighty Allah will prevent such of reoccurrence of disaster in the future. For the chairman of the Single Market Trade Association, Jinad Zakari, expressed gratitude to the federal government for what he described as a timely and generous gesture. He pledged that the fund would be used judiciously to support affected members and also help restore business activities in the historic market. For details of that story, see the Punch newspaper with this headline. Federal government and APC governors donate 8 billion naira to victims. Glad to have you join us. You're still on to us from In the Papers, your daily nuggets for stories making major headlines in today's newspaper. Yes, we have this one coming to you from the Guardian newspaper. It says NCDC raises alarm of as 15 health workers contact Lassa fever and two die. Now the details. The Nigerian Center for Disease Control and Prevention (NCDC) yesterday in an advisory to the House called for an heightened index of suspicion and restricted compliance with infection prevention and control (IPC) measure following the disturbing rise in Lassa fever infection among medical personnel. In a public health advisory released at the peak of the 2025-2026 Lassa fever transmission season, the NCDC confirmed that 15 health workers had tested positive to Lassa fever, with two fatalities recorded uh, as of the week. It expressed deep sympathy over the recent infection and death, describing the trend as deeply concerning and avoidable with strict adherence to standard precaution. According to the NCDC, investigation into each health worker's infection revealed troubling gap in infection prevention and control practices. The agency, however, identified the low index of suspicion among health workers, inconsistent availability and improper use of medical protective equipment, and underestimation of risk in outpatient departments and general ward as a major driver of infection. The advisory also noted that the non-clinical members of staff, including cleaners, porters, and administrative officers, are equally at risk and must be included in IPC training for protective measures. The NCDC noted that infections in healthcare settings typically occur through contact with blood, with infected blood, urine, vomit, and other body fluid. Performing clinical procedures without adequate PPE, poor and hygiene, handling contaminated instruments, and delay recognition and isolation of suspected cases. It stressed that standard precaution must always be applied to all patients regardless of diagnosis. The NCDC urged the state and health facilities to establish functional isolation centers, maintain designated treatment centers where possible, and ensure clear referral pathway for suspected cases. For details of that story, see the Guardian newspaper with this headline. NCDC raises alarm as 12 health workers contract Lassa fever and two die. Also taking stories from the Guardian newspaper where we have talking business. It says NDIC reiterates mandate, says 1.5 trillion naira trapped in 50 failed banks and microfinance firms. Now the details. The Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation (NDIC) has reassured customers that their hard-earned deposit remains protected as it intensified nationwide effort to deepen public understanding of deposit insurance and strengthening confidence in the financial system. At a stakeholder town hall meeting in Lagos at the weekend, at the stakeholders town hall meeting in Lagos at the weekend, the managing director of the NDIC, Thompson Sunday, represented by the director of bank examination, Adedayo Olukoya, said improved Improving public knowledge of deposit insurance is crucial to reinforcing trust and resilience within the banking sector. With its aim strengthening depositors' confidence, the NDIC's role in the financial system, stability, and consumer protection. The engagement focused on how cooperation protects original depositors when financial institutions run into trouble. Director of the Claims Director of Claims Resolution, Olawale Sule, explained that the NDIC's operations are built on four core mandates: deposit guarantee, banking supervision, failure resolution, and bank liquidation. Under the current framework, depositors in deposit money banks, non-interest banks, and mobile money operators are insured up to 5 million naira per customer, while customers of microfinance bank, primary mortgage institution, Sule and Sule and the Payment Service Bank are covered up to 2 million naira. Depositors, he noted, were given priority in the payment hierarchy. To speed up reimbursement, NDIC relies on the bank verification number, the BVN system, to trace depositors' alternate accounts and credit insured funds directly after closure. Beyond payout guarantees, the corporation works closely with the Central Bank of Nigeria to monitor the health and financial institution through routine supervision. For details of that story, see the Guardian newspaper with this headline: NDIC reiterates a mandate, says 1.5 trillion naira trapped in 50 failed banks and microfinance firms. Yes, that is how far we can go today on the edition of today's edition of In the Papers, and we hope we've been able to bring you major stories and, of course, keep you informed and up to date about happenings within and outside Nigeria. Until we come your way again, same time, same station, iPower 102.7 FM. We implore you to please keep it locked on iPower 102.7 FM as we have list of endless informative, educative and entertaining programs outlined for your listening pleasure. I remain your host, Florence Ibhareman. Many thanks for listening. Good morning.